Hi, and welcome to this week's Midweek message. It is Wednesday, the 13th of September, 2023. Over the last few weeks in these messages, I've been talking a lot about discipleship, which is following Jesus. One of the risks that one runs in talking about this, which has historically been called sanctification or the process of becoming holy, is that one might become discouraged at the lack of progress rather than encouraged to take another step. Part of that comes from the natural reaction that we have as humans to compare ourselves to others, imagining that there are some who are so far ahead of us in their journey that we'll never catch up because our progress is too slow. Sometimes we feel bad because we know each and every one of our own shortcomings, so we feel guilty and discouraged. If we're honest with ourselves, many of us sometimes wonder if God would really reach out to someone who messes up and backslides as much as I do. The good news is that these messages don't come from Jesus. In fact, Jesus spent a lot of his ministry arguing against just such arguments. In Matthew 9, when Jesus called Matthew the tax collector to follow him, and he went to his house where he was surrounded by even more tax collectors and sinners, the Pharisees confronted not Jesus, but his disciples. Why, they asked them, does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? Jesus overheard this conversation and answered them, those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have come to call not the righteous, but sinners. I take a lot of comfort in the fact that Jesus has not come to call the righteous, but sinners. It's a reminder that the call for us to follow Jesus is not a call to the good enough, or to people who have it all together. It's not a call that Jesus makes because he's looked at us and deemed us good. Instead, he looks at us and sees us for who we are, sinful yet loved, and summoned by Jesus to follow him. When sinful, broken, and hopeless people follow Jesus, that's when we discover the power of God's grace at work. So if you feel like you don't measure up, or if you aren't a finished product, and you're frustrated by the continual battle against sin that it seems that you might be losing, take heart. Jesus calls people like that, people like us, to follow him and to be made new by his grace. The poem I've selected for today is by Scott Cairns, a poet that I return to again and again. It's actually a section of a longer poem called Disciplinary Treatises. This section is called A Recuperation of Sin. In this poem, he reflects on sin and how it seems to lose its power in our time, how we have redefined it. But the power of sin does sometimes hit us when we are confronted with what we understand to be evil in the world. We have no other words to describe what is so broken in human beings. Even still, we have a tendency to externalize the power of sin. I think that in this poem, Cairns is challenging us to see the power of sin that's at work in us too. Again, the poem is called A Recuperation of Sin. I suppose we might do away with words like sin. They are at least archaic, not to mention rude, and late generations have been pretty well schooled against the presumption of holding anything to be absolutely so, universally applicable, especially anything like sin, which is, to put it more neatly, unpleasant, not the sort of thing one brings up. Besides, so much of what ignorance may have once attributed to sin has been more justly shown to be the end result of bad information, genetic flaw, or most often an honest misunderstanding. I suppose sin's old usefulness may have paled somewhat through many centuries of overuse by corrupt clergy pointing fingers, by faithless men and women who have longed more than anything for a more rigid tyranny over their wives and husbands, over their somnambulant children. In fact, we could probably forget the idea of sin altogether if it were not for those periodic eruptions one is quite likely to picture in the papers or on the TV, troubling episodes in which, inexplicably, some giddy power rises up to occasion once more the spectacle of innocent's blood. Today's prayer is from a collection called Further Everyday Prayers. Lord, forgive what I am. Forgive me for what I have not become. You have made it so easy to wash and be clean. Why do I make it so hard for myself to be immersed in the tide of your love? Amen. I hope that you have a great week. I hope that you have a great weekend. I hope that we see you this weekend at church. Remember, we're going to have worship this Sunday, like most Sundays, at 9 o'clock and at 10:30. 9 o'clock traditional, 10:30 Southridge. Okay? I hope everyone has a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.